Thank God that we are all here. This is what a time to be alive and fighting the good fight for justice, equality, and freedom in the United States of America. We welcome everyone who's joining us tonight to the Five Guys on Live. We are here to give you some great debate, great discussion, and great commentary, although I am definitely not in the best of moods with so many things happening in this country. It's just one of those nights. I think it's a rare night where I think we could just jump right into the issues that I really think are impacting not only the five of us, CJ's joining in a moment, but probably everybody out there who's watching. Darius, the very first story really is one that you brought to the table. And what we do, guys, every week is we each get a topic. And this is something Darius brought to the table. And it's a viral video that finally is receiving national attention of Army Lieutenant. The whole name is, I want to say his whole name correctly, Lieutenant Karen Nazario, who is Black and Latino from Windsor, Virginia. This is actually not the actual, pardon me, it's out of order. This is the correct clip. So this is the correct image. This is kind of how we start off. Darius, I know you saw this over the weekend. Thank God it is finally getting national attention. Give us a little bit of background. Tell us about it.
Yes, as you can see from the timestamp, this event actually happened back in December of 2020 when Army Lieutenant Nazario, who is Black and Latino, was being pulled over by police officers in Norfolk, Virginia. He was being pulled over, and since it was a dark street, he decided that he would pull over a little while down the road at a BP station because he said it would be well lit and it would be safer for himself as well as the officers. And if you've seen this video, you know that at that point he was harassed. He had guns pointed at him. He was maced, and it was all because he had a paper tag, a temporary license plate. And so it just begged the question, are any of us really safe? This is someone who is sworn to serve and protect the United States of America, defend our freedom. He's fighting for the United States, and in a blink of an eye, he's been maced and not even given the benefit of the doubt in this situation by these officers, one of which I think was also a Latino officer, Gutierrez. But at this point, Nazario has filed a suit against these two officers. So I just want to know, is there anyone in the United States in the Black community who is safe from police brutality? And do we think that this was racially motivated? So guys, what do you all think about this situation?
As I continue to sit back and think about these stories that we continue to hear over and over again, I know we may touch on it in a little bit, but I start thinking about Didnt Fight. The foolishness of Didnt Fight, and a law that was on the book of the law that you can't have air fresheners in your rearview mirror, which is absolutely asinine. And I was having a conversation with a former state rep earlier today, and we were talking about this, and it took me back to a time where I was pulled over when I was a grad student, and I was working, if y'all remember, that Domino's used to be on the corner of 10th and Spring Street. I was not there anymore. But I was a grad student when I was working there, and I was a manager then. I was closing up one night, and unfortunately, as I was leaving, the Georgia Tech police immediately began to follow me as I was leaving. No issues. And so I got in front of another car, and I saw them trying to move. So I tried to move in front of another car because I'm watching him coming. So much so I got to that BP at the corner of North, right across from Varsity, and I turned in, and he turned his lights on. And he immediately said, "Oh, I ran your tag, and your insurance has expired." And I said to him, "Well, wait a minute. You haven't been behind me long enough to even determine if my insurance, because they didn't have back then just yet those signals or things that you can actually taser to see if you had your insurance." So needless to say, he kept telling me to get out of the car. And I said, "Well, no, here's my license and registration. You can go really run them." And I just kept saying that because I wasn't gonna have the car. He called 3 other Georgia Tech police officers. And so here I am, this 20-year-old young guy surrounded by 3 Georgia Tech police officers about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning in BP, and nervous and scared. Now, granted, got put in the back of the car and everything else. But thanks be to God, somehow or another, somebody saw and got in contact with somebody. Needless to say, my car still got towed, but I was out the car because somebody made a call to a state rep who called the president. Now, that was good for me. Great. I'm glad I have angels who, and got people in high places. But what about those young brothers who don't have those people? What about those young brothers who don't have a state rep or a police chief you can call? And so, yes, I do believe these things are racially motivated because at this point in time, what else can these things be? Because we're not, I just can't understand, like, at this time, what else can these things be? We're not hearing, we're not making it, oh, a white person got pulled him and killed. No, it's every time I turn around, it's another one of us. I don't care if you're black and something, or if you're black. No, at the end of the day, we are still being targeted. And at the end of the day, we have to find a way to, again, protect us. And I'm tired of having these kind of stories and these kind of conversations.
So what you brought up really, the 2 topics unfortunately go together this week, is that we not only have the police brutality incident against Lieutenant Nazario, but you did, again, Didnt Fight in Minneapolis, literally minutes away from where George Floyd was killed. And so this is that young man, a young father with so much life ahead of him, so much potential in the world. And, James Johnson said that we need to train these boys. They can't run. They have to show up in court. That doesn't justify his murder. However, we don't need to give them any reason. Dr. Woodson said it doesn't matter if they have a reason or not. I hate this. Don't give them a reason perspective. How can anyone justify the deaths of people who are complying? Exactly. All of that kind of goes into it. What's probably heartbreaking is that all of us here, we probably each have a story of something similar. And it's so funny, like you said that, Dr. Pickett, literally last month, after I was getting my first COVID shot in Macon, I was pulled over. Maybe that was, what county is Jackson, Georgia in? Butts. It was Butts County. Maybe Butts, maybe Monroe. Maybe it was Lamar, but I was literally pulled over, and because I drive a company car, the state patrolman literally thought I had stolen the car because the car is still registered to the previous owner. I haven't changed over the tag. I still have time to do that, but I haven't changed tag over because I'm still in legal time to do so. But he literally thought I had stolen a Jeep Compass. He thought I had stolen a Jeep Compass. And when he pulled me over, I said, "Why did you stop me?" And that really pissed him off. It was a white officer, young guy. He was really pissed off that I would ask him why he pulled me over. And I knew then that this could take a left turn, and I just completely de-escalated, but it really did piss me off. But again, you can do everything right. You can do everything right and still lose your life in this country.
And Zach, Butts County, the county you were in, when I talked about a couple of weeks ago on my show about civil asset forfeiture, that's the county that was literally using the civil asset forfeiture law to take property from Black individuals and getting brand new police cars and getting brand new computers. That was the county that was using $400,000 worth of taken property that they can just take it for no reason. So that was the county. So I'm glad that you got out of there. But again, it's those small little counties that do the little things that, our legislators, our politicians, they cater to, because those are those are bread and butter. If I ain't got to ask you for no money because I'm doing it my way, you can do what you want to do in the state capitol, but I'll use the laws that you create to get other things done. And they're doing it on the backs of us.
I agree with what you just said, Dr. Pickett and Zach. For me, I literally just flew back from Minneapolis today at 10 a.m. On Friday, I had the opportunity to go visit George Floyd's vigil. So while I was on tour on the road, on the stage, once I got off the stage, I got massive text messages like, hey, are you safe? Are you okay? They're rioting in Minneapolis. And I'm like, what's going on? I didn't even know what was happening at that time. And then, you know, as soon as you get to the shade room and just all the different blogs and stuff and CNN reporting Dante fatally being shot. And then the report came out today that it was an accidental fatality. The officer thought he was reaching for his taser, but he reached for his gun instead. Like, for me at this point, I think it's one of two things. I agree with Dr. Pickett. Well, everybody, we definitely feel that a lot of these things, if not majority of these things, are racially motivated. But these officers seem to just be trigger happy, and it seems like their ability to de-escalate is just non-existent. It's like we want to rev up and gaslight the situation even more. I feel like if you are an officer, then you come, you take authority and you de-escalate the situation. A lot of these officers are going the complete left, and then there's no severe punishment behind it. Okay, you get fired, but that's what everybody has been saying. Like when during the Democratic debates, we need that database for these officers that are committing police brutality, because these officers are getting fired and can easily go to the next county over, the next city over, and resume whatever they were doing and not being held accountable. You know, and we already know a lot of these officers are not getting indicted when, you know, they go to court and all these things. So that police database needs to happen. It needs to come into full effect. And I also feel that just like when we're riding down the highway and you see those America's Most Wanted, what you call them, not signs, billboards or what have you. Look, we need to shame these officers just like we shame America's Most Wanted people, just like we shame sex offenders and their names are plastered and they got a database and we can research them. These, like, I just feel like shame, put their stuff out there, put their faces out there, put their addresses out there, because at the end of the day, nothing can correlate and equate to a life. Right? Nothing can do that. You took away your life. But what we can do is make it extremely hard to put all your business out there so you can't even get a leg into this profession. Period. Like, they need severe consequences and consistency behind it. And I think if we have those laws and those databases in place, then hopefully that'll, you know, shine a beacon. And last thing, Virginia needs to get get rid of qualified immunity, and Minnesota damn sure needs to get rid of qualified immunity. George Floyd, Philando Castile, and now Dante. Minnesota, what the hell going on up there? And it feels like Minneapolis specifically, I don't know, I know it's a major city in America, but a lot of these senseless killings have been happening in Minneapolis, but it's like they go under the radar. You know, and it'll pop back up, and then they go under the radar again. Minneapolis, Minnesota, they need to get rid of that qualified immunity. Those police officers, they don't deserve it at this point. It's so sad that 3 officers spoiled a whole bunch for everybody else. That ain't my issue.
Does the city, Vince, feel, does it still feel weighted?
Yes. And you know what? That George Floyd vigil visit, it was very overwhelming. Very emotional for me. And one thing, the first thing that I immediately saw was when I look back at the media coverage after George Floyd was murdered, the media painted that area as if it was like, for lack of a better word, the hood, or they in the ghetto. When I tell y'all, that corner store was in the middle of like Grant Park, like East Atlanta. Like, it was like this, it was nice houses and just like, it was well kept and a lot of thriving businesses. Michael Phelps, his Boys and Girls Club is across the street from the Cup Foods. So I'm like, okay, so y'all already put that narrative out wrong. But the beautiful thing that I saw afterwards is that literally all nationalities and ethnicities were coming to this site. You had Arabic people, this white lady, soon as her family came to the corner, she just broke down in tears. And they actually turned that entire corner into a community center as well. So it is some glimpse of hope, but you definitely feel the weight of just the energy and the spirit. Definitely. I know I did.
And so one thing that James said, and I do want to honor his commentary. James said, you know, I have been taken into custody. I didn't fight. Why did he hold me? Because he had a warrant for a James Johnson. I didn't fight. I complied. Another time, I had to turn myself in for the same thing he had a warrant for, failure to show up in court. I was around the same age as him. My point is, we fight in court, not the streets. He tried to run. running emoji. He had a warrant. None of that justifies her shooting him, yet he's not her victim. She needs to be held accountable as well.
I mean, there's so many things I could say about that comment, but at the end of the day, people should not be racially profiled, and people should not be made to feel like they are guilty of something they're not guilty of. I understand that we have a judicial process in place that is supposed to be fair and equitable for all people, but we know that it's not the case for everyone. I've also been stopped, and I've been guilty of a crime that I was able to walk away from unscathed because of the names I was able to drop and because of the calls I was able to make. And I wonder how that call would have gone, or how that stop would have gone for my younger brother with dreadlocks and with gold fronts in, even though we're from the same family and have the same connections. And so it is unfair to sit there and say that, oh, when you comply, you'll get around, you'll get away with it, because there are people like Officer Nazario who was complying, who was doing what the officers told him to do, and he still was maced. And so this respectability politics that Black people hold, especially as we start to talk about elitism, these are the things that enable white people and white supremacists to say that there are certain Black people who are acceptable, and thereby I am not racist because I can be cool with, a James Johnson who was able to hold his composure together and be like, yes, sir, no, sir, very docile and very, respectable with the police officer. That makes it very hard for people who aren't able to traverse the situations in the same way, who are equally innocent or equally guilty, to come out in the same way that some people are able to. And so I think it's very unfair to charge the victim for what the police officers have done. We can leave it at, she needs to be held accountable. All the rest of that shit is irrelevant. We can start at the part that the officer needs to be held accountable.
Yes. Cassandra Bland complied.
And you know what? This other thing, Darius, I'm glad you hit on it. One thing that I'm just sick of hearing is they had a record. They had a warrant. They had this. I literally just pulled up this article while I was doing my research from the Wall Street Journal, that over the past 20 years, authorities have made more than 250 million arrests, the FBI estimates. As a result, the FBI currently has 77.7 million individuals on file in its master criminal database, or nearly 1 out of 3 American adults have a record. Between 10,000 to 12,000 new names are added each day. So does that mean just because I got a record, and just because if I come across with an officer that negates my life, that my life is canceled? Like, that's the same thing with George Floyd. Well, he may have been under drugs, so that means he shouldn't have. He was allegedly under drugs. Oh, because I got a record and I got pulled over, and I'm asking officers to do something that gives him the opportunity and the freedom and liberty to cancel my life? Like, come on, y'all. Like, that, y'all make it make sense. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will, I think it's great debate, and that's the whole point of it. James, we do appreciate your commentary. And now it's really time, Vince, for you to give some commentary on your topic, where we talk about, America's worst governor, Brian Kemp. This is a picture of Brian Kemp. I always try to find a picture that I feel represents the inside of the human on the outside. And when I was Dopey Dog, I absolutely see an image that I feel represents the true heart and soul of the man that we call the governor of Georgia. I am someone who watches The Walking Dead. There's a character in The Walking Dead called the Governor. I would rather have the governor from The Walking Dead serve as my governor than this droopy dog. Vince, tell us about the updates from Senate Bill 202 and the fallout.
Wait, Vince. I just have to ask Zach. What's his designation as a governor?
Droopy dog.
You said he's the what governor of the United States?
He's the worst governor of the United States of America.
I just want to hear that again.
He is incompetent. He is an imbecile. He is inept. He is unqualified. He is dishonest. He is immoral. He is unethical, and he should not be sitting in that office today. Killing Georgians and hurting our economy at a time when it is fragile, and we are on the precipice of change and turning the corner from a pandemic that he did not assist us in. Vince.
Zach, I think you said it.
Yeah, Zach. You said it best. I'm about to go stand at the polls right now and vote his ass out in 2022.
Stand there right now.
Oh, yeah. Because at this
They're
point,
gonna lock you up.
bananas. It is bananas. So of course we know, unfortunately, the All-Star Game MLB did move from Atlanta. We did lose it, and they have relocated it since to Denver, Colorado. And so now there's this uproar from the GOP, specifically Brian Kemp and his camp, that I think it was a report saying that Georgia will lose $100 million in revenue, and this is going to hurt Cobb County, and in actuality is really going to hurt minorities and people of color and the very thing, blah 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 blah, all this stuff. So the thing that really stuck out to me was the hypocrisy of it all, y'all. How dare Brian Kemp sit up here and say that the MLB should not be involved, or corporations rather, should not be involved at all in politics? Yet and still, the bill that you passed, y'all willingly put out there that you informed Delta, informed Coca-Cola, informed Home Depot. Y'all brought all these corporations in to get their buy-in, to get their whatever their hearsay into it, or what have you. And then now that your ass got big, corporations need to stay out of politics. So I really just wanted to throw that out there to the guys. Do you feel there is a line, or should there be a line in terms of corporations, businesses, and politics? Because the GOP, they use this argument whenever it's convenient for them, and it's hypocritical, and I feel like they're insulting everybody's intelligence at this point. Like, we just can't read between the lines. Like, we ain't gonna catch it.
Right. I mean, it's very telling, because who did he say what hurt? He didn't say what hurt the people. He said what hurt the businesses. And so that's just another sign of who you care about in this state of Georgia. You care about rich people. You care about the businesses. You don't care about the people. You didn't care about the people when it was about them having the right to vote. But now, all of a sudden they matter when it's time for them to make money for these larger corporations. And so we have to do whatever must be done in order to get the attention of this governor. I don't think that anything can be done. Just like with Biden trying to appease the Republicans, I don't think there's anything that Joe Biden can do that will appease the Republicans in a way that they will act with them in a bipartisan way for the next 8 years if the Democrats don't win in the next election cycle. I don't think there's anything that can be done. I don't think there's anything that that the people of Georgia can do that will convince Brian Kemp that his decisions are bad. Should we do it anyway? Absolutely, because what does it do? It makes him look like the fool that he is. And so, of course, the people of Georgia are going to hurt, but at the same time, we cannot enable this government. We cannot enable this party to continue to run us into the ground in terms of our civil rights at the hands of a dollar.
And so I'm gonna tell my mom, you're right. Tate Reeves of Mississippi is a bad governor as well, but he's dumb. Like, he's just a stupid man. Tate Reeves is just a dummy. Brian Kemp isn't actually dumb. He's just evil. So it's a difference. Like, I'm more willing to give a little bit of loving Christian charity to the dummy, but I can't give that loving Christian charity to the devil.
How much longer does Kemp have?
Brian Kemp is up for re-election next year in 2022. He is using this incident to regalvanize the base. Brian Kemp was up under Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has turned his back on Brian Kemp. Donald Trump is literally telling people to not vote for Brian Kemp, and now he is trying very hard to gain that base back. And actually, he's gaining some points. He gave a speech today at the Cobb County Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Pickett, I know you wanted to chime in.
No, I just wanted to piggyback on something that Vince said when he was talking about the businesses. And the thing of what people have to realize is, again, the GOP has always been the party that has geared towards the businesses. That's the reason why the GOP has always dealt with the lobbyists. If you remember, what happened was they actually passed a bill because the lobbyists, they passed a bill because the lobbyists weren't doing necessarily everything they wanted to do. So they made it so that lobbyists can't pay and you can't get a certain amount. Sorry, from the federal level, they did a bill to shorten the amount of money that a lobbyist can pay. Like, for instance, if you want to take a elected official out for lunch or things of that nature. Now, the state of Georgia released that a little bit, but you also have to remember the GOP, because of the fact that they base things off of what businesses, because you got to remember, Donald Trump, when he originally was talking about the economy, he talked about the economy based on the stock market. His economy mindset was everything stock market. So when he was saying the economy was hurting or booming, he was based on the stock market. You also got to remember the moment that Delta decided that they were going to do a stance, what did they do? They immediately did a juncture and said, listen, we need to pull back their tax cuts. We need to pull back their tax breaks. The House side said, the Senate side said, wait a minute. Listen, we see what you're trying to do, but we can't do that. So again, the funny thing about it is the Senate, the Republicans are playing money games within their own self because we're not at the table. We can't, as Darius said, we don't have the power. What I am liking right now is the internal fight because of the fact that you got some Republicans who want to take this away. You got some Republicans saying, listen, at the end of the day, that's going to affect us. So guess what? Let them play it out. You already got someone like Vernon Jones who's about to jump in and run against him. You got somebody, you have watching them here to run against Raphael Warnock. What people have to understand is the Republicans aren't necessarily just looking at business. They're also still playing chess. So what they're doing is they're playing on the heartstrings of people and saying, what we're going to do is also do two things. And we're going to chew gum and walk at the same time. So while they're also using the business stuff as a distractor, they're putting black candidates in position in place to run against other black candidates. So they're bringing in black GOP members to run against black Democratic members. And so they know what they're doing. It's just that unfortunately we're thinking that they're really concerned about the business. No, they're using their tactics to play to our emotions, and they're sliding stuff under the door at the same time. We have to be on all ends of the fence and saying, listen, we see what you're doing, but we ain't playing those games with you.
And Courtney, Jamal McKee, thank you so much for that information. For anyone in the Atlanta area who will be free tomorrow at 11 p.m., there will be a protest at Georgia Power headquarters, a company that has not taken appropriate action to speak out. And I'm going to share with you the demands of LaTosha Brown and Black Voters Matter, as well as the African Methodist Episcopal ministers around the state. I know we have 534 clergy members who have united to call for changes in this law. And so one question that came up again is that, will Stacey win this time? If Stacey runs, we will see. But here's a better question is, can we stop it in 2022 like we did in 2020? And I'm going to go ahead and get large for this to break something down. This is the reason why Senate Bill 202 is so concerning to people, because it only took 12,000 votes for Joe Biden to win the state of Georgia and get those 16 electoral votes. It was an even smaller margin of victory for Ossoff to beat David Perdue. So it doesn't take much to shave off the majority that got us 2 Democratic senators and 16 electoral votes for Joe Biden. That's what Senate Bill 202 makes it very easy for Republicans to be able to do, because they are able to now invalidate any ballot that they deem worthy of being invalidated and put it on the sidelines because of discrepancies, because control no longer rests in the Secretary of State. It will rest in a Republican appointed board. That's very, very concerning. So if Donald Trump calls up and says, find me 12,000 votes, there is now a mechanism in place that makes it a little bit easier for someone to do the unethical thing and find him those 12 and criminal thing and find him those 12,000 votes. That's why this is such a big deal. It's not just the water. It's not just the food. Those things are embarrassing. They are disappointing, but that's not the real issue. It's also the fact that in Georgia, our polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So people who work early or work late are able to vote. Now it's only mandated that polls are open from 9 to 5. Now local boards can extend that time frame, but here's the thing. If the state takes over the local boards, they can change it back to 9 to 5. In addition, we talk about absentee ballots and how we have more absentee ballots when in actuality balloting boxes, when in actuality, we don't. I can no longer drop my ballot off in a box outside. I have to literally go into the polling place and drop it off. But if my polling place is only open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, I can't even drop off my absentee ballot. There's so many little nuanced things in this bill that make it problematic that when you hear people like Brian Kemp defend it on Fox News, it's nothing but gaslighting and lies, and it's heartbreaking. So Stacey, to answer your question, I can't tell you that we can beat it this time. We're going to vote. We're going to do a phenomenal ground campaign. We're going to have the people there. But can we stop the cheating? We couldn't stop it in 2018. Many people say Stacey Abrams had the votes, and she isn't the governor.
I just wanted to clarify. DeAndre, you're muted. But before you continue, I just wanted to clarify that protest at Georgia Power is at 11 a.m. And so you can see the details on Courtney's page, and it's listed below. That's 11 a.m., not 11 p.m.
Now, I was just going to say, Zach, I wanted you just to one more time make sure to tell them again and impress that the issue about that portion of the bill that literally stripped the Secretary of State's role, if you will. I really want you to really, because I don't think people really understand what that means, because we keep talking about this conversation around, the president of the United States and the House and the Senate in Washington. But what Republicans realize is, screw that. We still have power in the gubernatorial offices and the state legislatures across the nation. So guess what? There are still 42 other states that has this legislation around the country that can still do it. And they still can take control. So while we're out here talking about we're loving Biden and we're loving the Congress, we're looking at all that, that's beautiful. But again, we have elections coming in a year. State reps and state reps are going to run, state senators are going to run, and all constitutional officers are going to run. And right now, the Secretary of State has been stripped of power that in essence deals with voting, which is one of the largest offices in portions of his duty. And so now so it's going to be heavily important now. I told somebody earlier today, you have to be very careful, because I'm scared about, do we spend time focusing on, putting a new Secretary of State in, or do we focus on making sure that we look at the state legislatures and the governor to get them out of there to flip the script? Because right now, the Secretary doesn't have the power.
We do, of course, focus on the legislative offices, but we take it in a very slow process. We're not going to flip the state house in 2 years. It's not going to happen because of how Republicans have gerrymandered the state. And, Google Stacey Abrams and how the state was gerrymandered, because she played a role in that. That is unfortunate. I am thankful that Stacey Abrams has been able to redeem herself, but I know I've made several posts on Facebook as to why I am not the biggest Stacey Abrams fan, and I'm not a forgiver. I'm someone who will never forgive what happened to this state in 2010 to 2015 when she was the House Minority Leader, because I knew this day would come. I knew the day would come when Republicans would do this to us, because they gerrymandered and they didn't have they did not have strong Democrats who were fighting the right way. They were not using social media then. They were not using the power of the press. They were not begging for boycotts. People are angry. And here's an example. Here's the rally from from Governor Kemp. He may become president of the Confederate States of America one day. He may do that in his dreams. But, take a look at this image. You will see here 2 black people, right? 2 raisins in a sea of milk. And so these two black people right here, I'm going to give you their names because they've actually come up tonight. And they came up here from Dr. Woodson, and I know also Dr. Pickett brought them also to the table. These 2 raisins are Kelvin King, that is the black man right here, and his lovely wife, Janelle King. Okay, that's who they are, Kelvin King and Janelle King. They are in the construction business. So as a black person who gets probably what is it, EEOC, affirmative action benefits that Republicans have to give some contractors to minority businesses, I'm sure they bring in quite a few of those, and they're probably very happy to be right there skinning and grinning by the president of the Confederacy, Brian Kemp. And now the man, Kelvin King, if you want to call him that, is actually going to run against Senator Warnock. So that is the black man DeAndre was talking about, who is going to run against Raphael Warnock. Now, he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. If Kanye West, Lil Wayne, Waka Flocka, and a number of other celebrities could not pull black votes away from the Democratic Party, there is no way this Kelvin King and his lovely wife Janelle, who was the Amen Corner during this press conference, will have an impact. We are woke in Atlanta. We are woke in Georgia. And it's not just us. We have an army of allies ready to fight. So we're not about this loser.
Zach, why do they have to go and find some black people with the last name King, though?
Because it just fits the narrative. It fits the narrative.
Well, what's her name? She Alvina, she with him too.
You're right, the niece.
And the niece, she with him too. So
Wait, who?
His niece, Dr. King's niece. She all up on their stuff too. So
Stacey, I couldn't say that. I couldn't say that because I would hate to tell King. I've called your governor. I've already called him a raisin. So I would hate for him to take this clip and then send it to my job and say fire this man. But truth is what it is, and it.
Since I work for myself, he's a coon. I work for myself. I'm okay.
And so, I think someone asked a little, they are, but it's not going to work. Not in Georgia. I'm glad that, James says he knows Janelle. And again, I'm sure she's a lovely young lady. I would say somebody asked, what can we do? Well, what we can do again, the same mobilization that was there is in place. One thing we can do is don't get angry when you get text messages. Don't get angry when you get the mailers. Just accept it and say, this is for the betterment of Georgia, because that's going to happen. That's the mobilized network. In addition, make sure that all of your family and friends are registered to vote, because you have teenagers who are going to be coming of age. Get them registered and get them informed. Don't let the fire and the passion go out. Because this is what Republicans like Brian Kemp are counting on. They are hoping that we will let this go, that we're going to forget about it. We can't forget about it. We have to keep this constantly in front of Georgia voters and never let them forget what they're trying to do to us right now, especially in November of 2022. And again, we have to seek out good politicians and fight hard. Here's a major issue. We've talked about the QAnon queen, Marjorie Taylor Greene, right here multiple times. She broke fundraising records for Q1 already. She is not able to sit on any House committees. She has not been able to achieve one thing since being in Congress, but she raised more money than any other representative, including Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We have to be careful. We have to find a way to put our money or our time or our talents to the work and the efforts. And those are some of the things that we can do. That's what we can do. We have to stay vigilant. You can also volunteer by joining any of these organizations. You have Black Voters Matters by Latasha Brown. They've been all over the news lately, thankfully. You have Stacey Abrams and her network. She has a lot of affiliates and organizations under her as well. You can also consider joining either the NAACP or the Young Georgia Democrats. There are lots of options out there. Or you can start your very own organization and movement to affect and impact change. Mm-hmm. We can do this, but we've got to start right now. We've got to start right now. So, gentlemen, anything else? Is there anybody out here who feels as though the boycott shouldn't have happened? Because the boycott has really taken off. We do have where the Delta and Coca-Cola have come out and they were being boycotted. Now they came out with stronger statements. This past weekend, we had 100 corporate leaders join a call talking about they were going to stand up against voter suppression bills. Tim Cook of Apple has come out against this. We've had a number of leaders who've come out. Now, Georgia Southern, no. Georgia Power, no. Home Depot, no. Chick-fil-A, of course not. But many companies have done the right thing. Do you think that the impact on the Georgia economy will be too harsh? Brian Kemp says this is going to hurt Black people.
I don't think where they always go. I don't think it'll be any different than how it is now. I mean, we in the same economy as it is during the pandemic, so we didn't get the All-Star game and we just resume as how it's been. Hell, we ain't been closed anyway, so
it's not like Black people are making the big bucks. They're making their minimum wage, just like Keisha Lance Bottoms get up there talking about, oh my God, y'all done burned out this Wendy's. How the people gonna eat in this community? What are you talking about?
And I'm for a boycott. At this point, I'm okay with a boycott. I just like organizing. I don't want us looking, I want us to have rationale and reason why, let's not be all scatterbrained and everybody doing, we really have to put a united front about it. So we can't be saying, oh, we all gonna do on one day and we ain't gonna do another day. I believe in organizing. If we can do it right and make sure that we do it with purpose, I'm all for it.
Right. So here's the thing, and I'm gonna, Stacey, you brought up a good point. I wasn't gonna say this, but this goes back to a private conversation that I had with a lot of my friends who are active in politics, and I know I specifically had the conversation with Dr. Pickett. I know we talked about this. He doesn't even know what I'm about to say. But I had talked to Dr. Pickett early in the session this year, Stacey, where I said that the Democrats that we have elected who are sitting under the Gold Dome are failing us because they were not talking about the issues with the level of passion they were talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Right.
They were not tweeting. They were taking nice pictures. They were having lunches. They were smiling. They were not putting a policy on the table. And these people I applaud them. I try to give them the benefit of that. I said maybe they're busy because they're in session. Maybe they don't have time for it. But here's the consequence. The people in this state did not know enough about what was coming down the pipe to take appropriate action. We could have called for boycotts if we would have known what was happening. They made the assumption that the bills would be condensed as they were, and that they would have time between when the bill was passed by the House and the Senate until when Brian Kemp would sign it. But he signed it immediately after it was passed in the dark of night. That was the problem. We cannot assume these people are going to follow by the protocols and the rules that they've always played by, because this is a game for power and they are losing. So they played dirty and we certainly lost. And now we're in a hole that we may not be able to come out of, not in Georgia.
Zach, there's a comment down there about boycotting, and if I can just make a quick statement about that statement right there. It says boycotting the Georgia lottery will hit their pockets. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not a big fan of that one, only because of the fact that actually, that's where a lot of our our funding comes from when it comes for education. And so I'm not sure if I'm a big supporter of that one, because again, when you're talking about cutting and hitting the pockets there, when you have a party that's responsible, if you will, for the budget and responsible for how the money is allocated, they will do what they want to do with it. And so because the Georgia lottery is set up and hit a certain way, I don't want our bait, because unfortunately, when education suffers, we suffer. We get the short end of the stick. So I don't know if I'm fully with that. So I just want to make sure that
the lottery doesn't. This is the thing. Coca-Cola, AT&T, Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, these corporations make huge donations to politicians, both Democrats and Republicans. Coca-Cola will give Stacey Abrams $85,000, give Brian Kemp $85,000 when they become the nominee for their party. This is the thing. We demand that these corporations stand behind their commitment that they made last summer to the Black Lives Matter movement and say that Black lives really matter, and they don't give any more money to any Republican in this country who supports voter suppression. That's what we demand. Here is a breakdown of demands that come from our clergy members when I talk to you about the 375 pastors that came together. They demand that these corporations, number one, express opposition to Senate Bill 202 in a press conference. Coca-Cola and Delta and several other companies like Apple, they've done that. They also demand that they speak out against other legislation in other states. That is now happening. It was the purpose of the call that was held on Saturday. They also said that they must express support of federal legislation, House Bill 1 and 4 from the United States Congress that would give, if it makes it to the Senate and gets passed, which it won't because the votes aren't there, but would then undo a lot of these protocols and make voting across the United States more uniform and make it a national legislative priority as opposed to state by state by state. And then also they ask that they support the litigation as this now goes to court. I think 5 lawsuits have currently been filed with hundreds of lawyers involved in the legislation. So that's the demands being made. That's what they're asking for, and that's how we boycott it. Personally, I would have liked to see, and I still want it, this is what I want. Zachary Kirk wants to see Delta and Coca-Cola say, if you don't convene a special legislative session and review this law again, we are going to possibly move our headquarters from the state of Georgia. You would cost this state millions of dollars in actual tax revenue that support the state government. The Georgia lottery supports education, but those tax dollars support these people's actual priorities and the things they want to do, like building wildlife preserves in Butts County. That's what needs to be hit. And I'm not saying Coke should move. I'm not saying Delta should move, but that is a type of threat that would send, shockwaves across this state and make the people who are sitting back being complicit or compliant take notice. And so,
with you when you're right.
Yes, comment.
And I said, with you when you're right.
You're right.
Yep, you know you can't win when you play dirty, hints, Nene leaks. And so, moving on from there, we're going to kind of skip a little bit for time's sake. We had, of course, the Joe Biden infrastructure bill. That is actually something that really can hold off until next week's discussion. But I just wanted to briefly share just a breakdown for those of you who are in Georgia, as many of our viewers are. The breakdown of this bill came out today. Many people were saying, well, where's the money going to go? I want to know specifics. Well, President Biden and White House released a state-by-state breakdown. You can go online to whitehouse.gov and find out what's happening in your state. But in Georgia, at least 374 bridges will benefit from this bill. Additionally, we're going to see an increase in public transportation, with 7% of our trains being modernized and improved. We're also going to see an improvement with our infrastructure across the state, with about $50 billion coming to our state alone to improve this, as well as the Georgia drinking water issues that we have, housing and broadband. Please know that 10% of Georgians have no access to internet in this state. 10% of people living in this state don't have broadband access. President Biden's infrastructure plan will fix that. So when you hear anyone who is opposing this plan in the state of Georgia, they are right there saying that they don't want to put Georgians to work. And not just any Georgians, but Georgians who don't have college degrees. The people who will benefit the most from this plan are people who are right now unskilled or uneducated workers, because there's a lot of money in this plan to give them skills that will carry them for the rest of their lives. While Donald Trump was trying to talk about getting coal out of coal mines, Joe Biden is talking and giving you jobs that don't exist anymore. Joe Biden has put in a plan that literally will give you jobs for the foreseeable future, for the next 15 years in America. So I just wanted to briefly share that. We'll talk in greater depth next week about, is it too expensive?
Really quickly, Zach, thank you for highlighting that, because just me, myself, I always wondered in terms of infrastructure, how do you hold an administration or whomever accountable? Because it's like, we see bridges need work, airports need to be updated, all these things, but it's like, once the re-election comes around, did your airport get renovated? Did the bridge, like, how do you sort of, because I don't live in Butt, so did that bridge get taken care of? I don't know, so thank you for doing that. I think a lot of people are sort of in that same space, like, how do you hold people accountable of infrastructure? How?
And Stacey, this is the thing: the racist white folks, or racist folks in general, even misguided black people, right? Because it's all racist. You saw those two raisins sitting up there with Brian Kemp. They don't care anything about the boycott. But here's the thing: they do care about the economy. They do care about their taxes. Mm-hmm. They do care about how their lives be daily impacted, and this is how you do it. There are a number of wealthy Georgians who vote Republican that have shares in Coke, that have shares in Delta, and they're seeing their stocks drop slightly. The impact hasn't been huge so far. I've been monitoring it myself, but because of Republican backlash. But that's what they care about. You have to determine what those Republican voters care about, and that's what you have to hit. They care about the economy, and that's what we have to hit in our threats to take action.
Yep.
And it always works. You're right, Dr. Woodson. It does work. There have been boycotts in other places that have had huge impacts. It makes a difference. I read an article about it over the weekend, and I was going to use it in my references, but I forgot to take actual notes on it. You're right. People in Appalachia don't have access to the internet. Now we will be able to finally get them there. This past weekend, we did have the loss of a rap icon. Many people, my social media was flooded with this. We also lost King Philip, but no one seemed to care. At least I didn't. So CJ, give us and tell us about the loss of the one and only Dark Man X DMX.
So Earl DMX Simmons unfortunately passed away over the weekend. He was only 50 years old, and they're saying that he OD'd and had a heart attack. Now coming out, they're saying that it was the COVID vaccine shot that actually had something to do with his death. So we're not really quite sure right now. People were saying that he has been clean off of drugs for a while now, so it definitely had nothing to do with the drugs. But definitely, this is a rap icon. A legend. He touched so many people and done so much for so many people in the communities, that he's lived in. And he was a very spiritual man as well. So this is definitely a hard one to kind of swallow because, you just wasn't expecting DMX of all people, just to pass away, and 50 being so young, and he has some new things coming out, new albums, a new movie. He was definitely working on some upcoming projects. So, the rap community and just the world in general is going through it right now. Also, Black Rob, who was recently hospitalized as well, had gave his last, remarks to DMX, and Black Rob actually just recently got released from the hospital, but now he's saying he's homeless, and everyone's kind of screaming out to where is Diddy at and why is Diddy not helping Black Rob? In his scenario as well. He was hospitalized for high blood pressure and multiple strokes in the past. So hopefully he's doing better now.
So going back to DMX,
Right.
now I have not heard that he got any kind of impact of a COVID shot. That was one source. I think it was like one of those faulty fake news sources, like maybe the Shade Room or Media Takeout.
No, the family actually
mainstream news medias have all said, and I just Googled it to confirm, from CBS all the way down to CNN, all the way down to People Magazine, everyone said that he died of a heart attack after a drug overdose. I know sometimes people want to rewrite the narrative, but I don't believe that would have been the mainstream news story had it not been accurate because of the fact checking that goes according to FCC regulations. So I don't want to put out there that COVID-19 vaccine is giving people heart attacks when some random cousin was cited by Media Takeout.
No, I'm not putting that out there, but they were saying that the family did release that it was just not strictly an overdose, that he did get the vaccine. They were saying it was a mixture of everything. Is the media going to put out the COVID vaccine? I don't even think they would, regardless of what you say with rules and regulations. When they're trying to enforce everyone to get
they would.
When they're trying to force everyone to get the vaccine right now. So why would they put this out there?
You literally had bad batches of the COVID-19 vaccine from Johnson & Johnson in North Carolina. Right. You had bad batches of the COVID-19 vaccine in Cummings, Georgia. So the fact that I know that because I watch mainstream news media. So they're not hiding information about the side effects or the problems that come from the vaccine. I think that they're doing a good job of keeping the American people informed, but I do believe that there is there are two communities right now with vaccine hesitancy. The Black community, of which I'm a part, and then Republican conservative evangelicals, which I'm not a part of. And if they don't want to take the vaccine, that's their business. And the same thing goes for Black people. I just don't want to in any way be a part of anything that contributes to a false narrative.
Point taken.
Well, getting back to the icon, rest in power, DMX. For me, it definitely hit a place because growing up as a product of the 90s and when MTV played music, BET played music videos, DMX was always on. So, him passing, and then a lot of people that I follow, colleagues and friends of mine, they posted him at some of the cookouts and just different spiritual things, church services, so on and so forth. I actually know his assistant in that part of the spirituality sense of his brain, if you will, very well. So, I've sort of had, that not direct connection, but just a connection enough to know that he definitely fought hard. And I think that's the thing that really hit a lot of people to their core, because in spite of the hardships that he's faced, you saw the fight. Like, I felt like you saw the fight, his passion to become better, to be accountable to his wrongdoings, and again just heighten himself more spiritually and getting a stronger relationship with God. So I really commend him for doing that 1000%. And then when you think of DMX, for me, you also think of Aaliyah. I played Back in One Piece from Romeo Must Die like 30 times straight. So you know, again, me as a millennial and grown up in the '90s, you know, it's a huge loss because he was so visible. He was so visible then. But I will say, I don't know who, I forgot what I was watching, but it was something along the lines in terms of just a culture accountability aspect for entertainers, but definitely for rappers and people in the hip hop culture. How oh, Master P, there it was. Master P was basically saying, how can hip hop and the music industry just invest better into their artists and making sure that they, you know, are protected, that they do have the resources that they may need in the event that, you know, they fall off the wagon and, you know, get involved into different things. Because unfortunately, you know, this is, you know, an ongoing thing with many entertainers, and nobody likes to see it. So I thought Master P was bringing a good question up to see if the industry itself or the labels, whatever, could maybe look at doing something to sort of create some, you know, resources or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I thought it was a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say this again. I mourn for everyone who mourns and everyone who's touched by the loss of DMX. I see that a lot of people are saying a lot of things, but I'm not going to be able to sit here and not point out the fact that this man was exceptionally homophobic and said lyrics and comments that were absolutely unexcusable, including he literally talked about killing gay people.
Raping 15-year-olds.
Again, it's unfortunate that he has lost his life early. I hope that he was able to make amends for the hate that he put out in the world, and I will leave it at that.
And I'm with you, Zach, because I often wonder, you know, I hate to Gayle King a situation in the way that she tried to do Kobe Bryant after he passed away. But I do want us to continue to be cognizant of these things, especially talking about raping 15-year-olds and killing faggots. I wonder, how do you mourn people who, not how as in, but in what way do you mourn people who have caused violence or who have caused trouble in the lives of so many? And so the term icon and the term, like, some of that stuff just makes me cringe a little bit. But I understand that he may have been that for some people, but for me, in the same way that you said that Prince, who passed away, Prince Philip, the same way you said that didn't move you, the DMX passing away, it doesn't move me. But I do hurt for anyone who hurts when someone passes away.
I agree. That's why I said I mourn for those who mourn. I was not a fan of DMX. His very first song, "Where the Hood At," is where these awful lyrics were. When I first heard the lyrics, again, I want to say this was even around the time of the Matthew Shepard murder in Wyoming. I remember all of these. I think DMX maybe was out a couple years after that. A horrible tragedy with these types of lyrics about, you know, literally shooting and killing gay people. Here's the thing, regardless of how I feel about him, I still accept the fact that he really was a rap icon and he really did impact the rap community. So therefore, that's why I was like, he was an icon. I don't want to take away from him, despite my own personal feelings and misgivings about his contributions to society. And so, CJ, you talked also about just Google "Where the Hood At." The lyrics are clear. Last I heard, y'all niggas having sex with the same sex. I show no love to homo thugs. Empty out, reload, throw more slugs. How do you explain effing a man? And he just goes on from there. So we listen to the beat, we catch a jig, but listen to look at the lyrics. Now, CJ,
you got a daughter,
Rob.
Hold on, Zach. And if you got a daughter older than 15, I'm going to rape her. Take her on the living room floor right there in front of you. Dick action seriously. What you want to do? Frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that record came out in 2003.
So, CJ, you talked about Black Rob. I don't even know who this is. Tell us, and you were saying that people say Diddy should pay for him. Why should Diddy pay for him?
So people were questioning, why is Diddy not helping him? So when he got released from the hospital, he had released a video, again, sending his condolences to DMX and, you know, how much he respected DMX. So for those who don't know Black Rob was a part of the Bad Boy movement. He is known for his song, Whoa. So if you guys remember that song, I'm like, whoa, you know, that's Black Rob. And people are pretty much asking now, he came out and said he's homeless. He doesn't have really a place to stay. And, you know, that song, Whoa, made a lot of money. And he did remixes for Bad Boy as well. So it wasn't just that one track. So people were like, well, where is Diddy at? Why is Diddy not helping him? Like, you know, this man saying that he's homeless. He made money for you. So why is he not helping you? And then it came out that, like, a lot of people like Clive Davis and Quincy Jones have done this to artists in the past where they had helped them make millions and millions of dollars. And then when they fell off or something happened to them, they were nowhere to be found that want to help them.
Here's a question though, CJ, like, and this is for all the gentlemen. Does your former employer owe you anything after you no longer work for them?
No, I mean, in reality, they don't. But I think just because, I mean, yeah, that is still your former employer technically, but I just think the music industry is different. So, of course, people are just, if other celebrities were reaching out to Black Rob on his page or on the thread and was like, you know, just send me his information, I'll help him out, whatever the case may be. People were just wondering why wasn't Diddy trying to help, because him and Diddy were tight. So it was just, people were just asking, you know, where's Diddy?
Bye, Malik, the door's closed.
Well, you know,
obviously.
Well, you know, CJ, that Diddy and Bad Boy conversation can be a slippery slope.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
We know about the Bad Boy curse, Danny the Kane,
Right.
Day 26, Total Dream. There's so many artists. Even when Mary J and Diddy fell out, it was because of, unfortunately, I believe, business reasons.
Right.
In terms of financial things. So exactly, whoever Facebook user Diddy has known to be stingy. I even think like last year during pandemic, you know, Aubrey O'Day came out when he was trying to do Making the Band again, and she was like, well, you haven't even really, you know, gave us our due for Danny the Kane and Day 26, you know, all this stuff. So yeah, that Diddy, yeah, that's a very interesting dynamic. He's interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's been several artists that have been done dirty, but you know, right.
And Miss Casey makes a good point. I think that a lot of times people demonize Beyonce, like, what are you doing for the community? What are you doing for the community? And she does a lot that she doesn't publicize. So it is possible that Diddy tried to help him and didn't publicize it. Probably
Beyonce,
unlikely.
Like Beyonce and Jay-Z went and purchased the masters of DMX and gave to his family. You know,
$10 million. $10 million that they gave to this family.
They'll never confirm that, man. They'll never confirm that. Beyonce doesn't confirm. Beyonce is above confirmation.
but again, I agree with that. And the question becomes, you know, what motive do you have for being the person who advertised what you've had to do for someone? You know, and so it becomes like, I did this, you know, so now is it really about that person?
Right.
Or is it about making it about you again? Like, I did this and I did that. And so now, you know, we've seen people use their platforms to boost themselves and say they did something else. So who's to actually say, who's to say that Diddy didn't do it?
Because it's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
And you know what's CJ, going back to the issue, like what I brought up on whatever Master P was saying about the industry, maybe creating or providing some resources, because it seems like at the end of the day, if Black Rob created this mega hit, then there should have been some money management on his side, you know, knowing how to stretch your money, longevity and stuff like that. But again, we know how flashy things are. I want to be drip, everything dripping, ice. You know, I blow through. Listen, I was watching Dreamgirls on the plane on the way down, and there was this line. Effie said, you want to hear how I spent like $2 million in 3 months or whatever she said, like people do that, right? Drinking, right? Like people do that. So in a larger degree, like artists moving forward, I think it would be nice, because that would probably be their own responsibility. I get it, but it would be nice if there was some type of resource to help these people manage that better so they won't fall off. Because I mean, it does suck. Like we see those BET has this thing called Where Are They Now? I don't know if y'all saw that on YouTube. Just artists come out, sharing Dennis, Sweet, you know, all that stuff, and then they make these huge hits, and then they're living. You know, you wouldn't even think they made all their money or had a hit. You know,
the one hit is not going to set you for life, because
I get it. I get that. But
many of the artists, they just are the voice on the track. You have the production, you know that. You have all the other pieces and all the other players that have to get paid. I don't even know if Black Rob suffered from a lack of money management. I just think he had one hit and that was a wrap. It's like, whoa. In addition to being like, well, many of you this past weekend, you tuned in at home and you sat down and you watched a brand new program on Amazon Prime called Them. Even if you didn't see the video, see this new program on Amazon Prime, perhaps it is something that you saw on social media. It was all over Twitter. It was all over Facebook. And maybe it's something that you are considering. Well, Dr. Pickett has a warning for us about this program.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say warning. I just have a critique that I've noticed that many people are.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Hence the reason I'm being very particular about my verbiage. But if you have not seen it thus far, of course, it's about this family called the Emerys, who are moving from North Carolina to LA in the 50s.
They're moving to Compton.
And so at this point, they are doing what a lot of people were doing what you call the Great Migration. And so they were pretty much going out from the South. Many people have critiqued this particular series, one, for its lack of origination, number one, but two, also because one of the writers or executive directors, Lena Waithe, who is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Darius, she's
a lesbian.
Okay, she just classified as lesbian. Okay, so I'm only saying that because I wasn't sure if she was classified as non-binary or she was lesbian. Okay, so classified as lesbian, but people have criticized that the most recent things that she's been a part of writing has played to the breakdown of not only the heterosexual Black family, but also Black people in general. And this particular series really breaks down and really puts Black people in a bad light over the course of these 10 episodes. And it talks about literally the breaking down of us. And people are wondering, is this something, after everything that's going on in the nation with Black people and everything that's going on with killings and all these things, is this the thing that should be highlighted? And is it truly telling our story, or is it still, is it poking fun the story, telling the story, or is it providing again another somber story that we have to live? And so I brought the conversation up to the gentleman because I'm just curious to know, is this kind of content something that we need to be looking at right now? And as we talked about on a number of occasions on this show, talking about, we telling the story and teaching those of individuals how to help us in our fight. Does this continue to push that narrative, or are we continuously, or are we also adding to the narrative of our own breakdown, our own beatdown?
Go ahead. I mean, I don't want to say anything without spoiling it, I guess, for Jesus. I mean, just watch it.
Yeah, don't spoil it. But
to answer your question, do I feel like it's not a right time to watch right now? I don't think so. No, I think it's a good time. Right. Does it make me feel some type of way with some of the stuff and content in the series? Absolutely. And not so more even so for what's going on now within our climate, but just for what was going on then before I was even thought of, and to the things that they endured and had to go through. So I think it's informative, but I think it's also twisted too. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's all I can say. It's crazy. If you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. Just watch it. They give you a idea if you don't watch the trailer. It's kind of like I want to say it's a mixture of Us, Lovecraft Country, Amityville Horror House. I feel like it's a mixture of all that in one. Honestly,
I haven't watched it just yet, but I wanted to echo Malik's sentiments. As writers, the first question that you always ask is, who is your audience? And so I also wondered the same thing. Who is it written for? I have not watched yet, but some of the themes that one of my followers on Instagram cited were white fragility, white hostility, white women being the antagonists and driving force behind the evils of their men, false white alliance, which is something that Dr. Pickett and also Zach Thomas touch on a lot on this show, and also predatory lending, and most of all, Black trauma. And so when I read that those were the themes that were heavily involved in the series, I decided that I would not watch it. But then you think about like Marsai Martin, who is a young and up and coming Black producer who has made an allegiance to not sharing Black trauma in any of her products or any of her projects. And so you think about it from both sides of it, like, is there no space for Black trauma to be exposed as a way to, expose other people who might not be Black to the types of trauma that we endure, with the goal of having other people understand the place that we come from when we're apprehensive about white alliance, or, when we are very passionate about dismantling white supremacy and things like that? Is there no space for it? If we get so close to a place where Marsai Martin wants it to be that there is no Black trauma, then will it become a situation where people look at Black people and say, well, if this has been her experience, then it can be any of your experience. And like Barack Obama told the men of Morehouse in 2012 to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and to keep it moving. And so I wonder like where the balance is, because it can be dangerous to have it included, but I think it is even more dangerous to not have any of it included in mainstream media.
I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I agree. I agree with all of you. I too had mixed feelings. I'll say this. I watched it because we were talking about it. Mm-hmm. So I actually didn't see a trailer or anything. So I just turned it on Amazon Prime. I'm sitting there. I'm like, what in the hell is happening right here? So for me, I am not a fan of the Black trauma genre, horror genre. I feel like I understand that Hollywood is in a place of, wanting to be more inclusive, increasing Black roles, increasing Black productions and all these things. I feel like just like Girls Trip, a lot of people were against Girls Trip. Nobody was for the idea of 4 Black women doing a hard rated R comedy. Nobody was for it, but they did it successfully. And I feel like they did it successfully without having to play into the in-depth stereotypes of Black women, Black females, and stuff like that. So for me, if you want to do more horror films with Black people, then just put 5 Black people in a haunted house and call it a day. I don't feel like every single thing we need to resort back to Jim Crow. We need to resort back to civil rights. We need to resort back to slavery. And I think right now we are such in a hypersensitive time, because I remember me growing up, you had Roots, then it was a minute. Then you had Amistad, then it was 5 years. Then you had, 12 Years a Slave, then it was 5 years. Like these types of movies that painted or told our story came out, maybe 3 to 4 to 6 to 7 or 8 years, if you will. Now you walk out the house, we got problems because we Black. You on social media, somebody got shot. You on the news, somebody got shot. It's like we getting hit from everywhere, and then Hollywood is putting it in our face. So there's no breathing room. So of course, because it's always in our face and always, on our minds, I just think it's at a place like where's the break? Where's the breathing point? Because we're getting hit from it from all angles, like all angles. And
here's the thing, I think you bring up a good point. And again, I think I have not watched an episode, but I have done a lot of reading, and it seems like there's a lot of deeply nuanced elements to the show that really require like a lot of metaphorical and allegorical leanings that really could provide good analysis and all of that. But here's the thing. I am right now living in an American horror story. Like my life every day, my daily life as a Black man in America is a true, every day is an episode of American Horror Story. I cannot subject my mental self to any more fiction around the trauma that is either real or imagined anymore, because the reality of my life is one that supersedes that when I turn on the news. Again, we just had today another school shooting. Just 2 weeks ago, we had the Asian massacre in Atlanta. The same exact week, we had the shooting in Colorado. Now we have the school shooting in Knoxville, Tennessee. Then we have the trial of George Floyd at the exact same, Derek Chauvin. At the exact same time as we're having Derek Chauvin on trial, we have these 2 police officers assault a black man, and then we have 3 police officers kill another black man in Minnesota. This is the American Horror Story that I live. Ain't shit Lena Waithe can put on no motherfucking Amazon that can compare to the realities that I am faced with in this country. And so I will not watch any more fictitious retellings of fake history, no matter how the intentions may be, because I mentally and emotionally cannot handle it.
And the last thing I want to say, go ahead, Vince.
So the question is, does Hollywood stop? Because I feel like a lot of people agree with you, Zach. So what would be the solution to that? Do they keep making this a recurring thing? When I looked at the IMDb, because what I recognize is that the lead character, the lead female character, she was actually on Girls Trip, or what have you. But when I looked at it, it looks as if this is similar to American Horror Story, where there's different series, if you will. So this is called Covenant, you know?
And they're coming back for a second season.
Yeah, I don't need the black experience in America is multifaceted, and it is diverse, and it is unique, and it is amazing. I want to see more of that on film, you know, and I want to see us support the films or support the shows that uplift that. Let me give you an example. I love the program Queen's Sugar, as slow and methodical as it is. I don't miss an episode. I absolutely love the television program David Makes Man. If you want to see some magic realism, then you can watch that program. It was on OWN as well. I love that show. Also, another show that may not be as deep as Queen Sugar or David Makes Man is a show on Freeform called Good Trouble, with an extremely diverse cast of characters based on an old show called The Fosters. There are shows out there that portray authentic black life in a real way. The TV show, let me tell you something, for everybody, if you have not watched the show Good Trouble, you are really missing one of the best shows on television for giving you the real black experience. There's a black character on the show. There's a huge cast of characters, maybe 8 people that live in a house together. The female black character, her name is Malika. She is a Black Lives Matter advocate who has been arrested, who is fighting for her freedom, who was the daughter of an incarcerated dad and a drug addicted mom. The mom is dead. She's grappling with realizing there were situations outside her mom's control, and she's had all this guilt all her life, or anger towards her mom that she couldn't have. Now she can't deal with it. And she's considering a polyamorous relationship with 2 black men. All of these issues are real in the black community, but they're not being talked about and shown on television. So Lena Waithe may very well, as a gatekeeper now, want to share these stories, but why do trauma that's been twice told? We already saw this in Lovecraft Country. We already saw this in Us. We don't have to see it again. Be creative and give us something new.
This one last little point I want to throw out, and it's something, Zach, that you have mentioned in past. The one other thing that actually concerns me a little bit about this story and some of the stories we have seen is the fact that we continue to a lot of the conversation, or a lot of the gist in this pushes a lot of black on white. It's a lot of racism issue. And the question becomes, as Zach says, how do we keep having these narratives, and how do we keep pushing these narratives when we say we still need them to get some of the stuff done? So when we keep putting these narratives out about everything is racism, but yet we say we need them as allies, how do we keep having these stories happen? So it's kind of like we got to be careful about making everything racist or putting all these narratives out if you keep saying that you need these same individuals. So it also are underlying tones of, are we alienating people who don't want, are we continuously alienating people who may get to the point saying, we damned if we do, we damned if we don't when we work with you. So we may not want to even help you or work with you anymore, because every time we turn around, you're also demonizing us as well. And so you also have to look at it from the quote unquote white person perspective. Like, if you're going to keep demonizing me, I ain't coming to help you with crap. I ain't going to do nothing, because you're making everything a fight. And as we all know, not every person that does not look like us is all against us. And so it becomes how do you tell that story, and how do you stay away from that you're not still alienating people who will be willing to help you?
But to that point, DeAndre, the people who are truly about dismantling white supremacy and being allies with Black people, they will not feel alienated by situations like that, but rather educated by situations like that. And so if you are coming to it from a place of feeling defensive when you see how Black people are being traumatized, then you're already not coming from a spirit of wanting to be a part of the movement or wanting to do better. But when you see these things, it should charge you to want to do better. And if it does not charge you to want to do better, and instead you decide to take a role of being offended, or now I'm the victim, like Sharon Osbourne, now I'm going to victimize myself and make myself the victim, then I don't want you to be beside me. Anyway, I want people who are able to empathize, who have good hearts, who see that this is not right. And instead of deciding that I'm more offended than Black people are traumatized, I want to step in and make sure that I don't continue to perpetuate these types of dangerous behaviors towards Black people. And I want to be allies in this movement.
I can agree with that to about 85%.
That means we only got 15% to go.
And I agree, Angie. I agree with that. It is important to tell our trauma, but tell the trauma through historical documentation. It's all right there. Don't necessarily tell the trauma through fictionalized mumbo jumbo. I don't know what else to call it. But again, this is me, and I'm just saying I will better watch it. I do believe maybe this is something that white people should see, but I don't necessarily know if I need to be subjected to it because I live it every single day.
Exactly, especially being from the South.
And, as a matter of fact, if you go to my TikTok, I have a TikTok that I made celebrating Michelle Obama. And when I tell you I have been dragged through the comments along with Michelle Obama and the racist things that people have said in that, I made a TikTok talking about Biden's poll. I mean, it's the racism that I face, just me, myself. It is unbelievable. Here's a prime. I'm going to read this one that I got today. This comment says, I was talking about Prince Philip, and they said, and that's why we don't care about you filthy N-words, and you have to riot for being Black, and we're glad that you do. BLM, we don't care. This is what I deal with every single day. I don't need to see it on them, but I do so willingly because it's my voice, and I think that it's important. With that being said, to everybody out there, have a great week, gentlemen. Thank you guys for joining us, viewers. Thank you guys for being with us tonight.
Pause. I had a PSA to make. Can I just say that?
We have a special PSA, everybody, from CJ. Take it away.
Right. So I'm going to be real quick with this, okay? So I will say I am glad that our people that are, getting the vaccine, I am glad that people are changing their mind, doing the research, and taking the preventative measures to go ahead and get vaccine. But I need people to stop saying they got vaccinated like as if they got the cure. Please stop saying this. I feel like that's the first thing I've been hearing out of people's mouth. Oh, I can go around. I'm vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. It's not the cure, people. You're taking an extra step to preventative measures to being safe with the corona vaccine. You still need to be social distancing. You still need to wear your mask. You still don't need to be going to the club and wherever else. If you choose to, that's your business. But I really need people to stop just acting like this is the cure. I had 3 people literally in the past week say to me, oh, we can go out to eat. I got vaccinated. Okay. It's not the cure. So that's just, I need people to stop saying that, please. Again, I'm glad people are getting vaccinated. I'm glad people are changing their minds and looking to getting vaccinated for those who didn't want to originally get vaccinated. But just stop acting like it's the cure, please. And thank you.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Our forever cast member, Ryan.
Zach, before we go, to CJ's point, there is CDC guidelines. There are new CDC guidelines that talk about how to move forth when you have been fully vaccinated and how to move forth with other people who are also fully vaccinated. So you all check that out on the CDC's website. But before we go, we do need to have our moment in Black history. And tonight I would like
for the Black History moment. I hate to say this, but you guys know I read all the time. I have to share because it came up. I have to share this data. Unfortunately, the South African variant The Pfizer vaccine that I have now had 2 doses of, I have now, I think, 18 days fully vaccinated. It is not truly, the vaccine doesn't truly stop you from getting it. So and they don't know about Moderna yet. This is a trial because in Israel, they had Pfizer, so that's what they got predominantly. Out of 400 people that have been fully vaccinated, 8 of them still contracted the South African variant. So that's the one that people are still getting. So CJ is absolutely right. We still have to be vigilant. We still have to be careful. I think in Georgia, there are 32 cases of the South African variant that's out there. And if we're not careful, it's only going to spread and it's going to ramp up. The UK variant is the one that is now dominant in the United States. But if we're not careful, it's only a matter of time before the Pfizer vaccine resistant, not fully resistant, but somewhat maybe vaccine hesitant, could become a bigger problem. So you can Google that, research it. It's a study that just came out yesterday from Israel.
I'm sorry, I agree with everybody. We got to stay maxed up, social distance, all this stuff. But I'm just going to call the thing a thing. America is not about to give up summer 2021.
Not at all. It's over with.
We can fight and bitch and complain and shout it from the rooftop. These mother truckers gonna be out here in summer 2021, traveling, going on, wherever. So at this point, unfortunately, just the climate of the country, it is what it is. So
yeah.
No, and that's fine. I'm just looking out for me.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Me minding my family, 100%.
So, Darius, we give 365 Black History every week. Give us a Black History icon, celebrity, fact of the day.
So, speaking of summer 2021, in the summer of 1963, there was a march on Washington, and it was co-organized by Bayard Rustin, who was an openly gay Black man during the Jim Crow era. He was one of Martin Luther King's close affiliates who helped found the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and we still speak his name today. The March on Washington brought over 200,000 people to Washington, D.C. in August of 1963, and that is where the I Have a Dream speech happened. And so today we wanted to just take a moment to recognize Bayard Rustin and his contributions to Black history. Black History 365, more than just a month, but every single day.
Darius, you can do them all the time. That's my favorite person ever. So you can do them all the time.
I thought I was your favorite person ever, Dr. Pickett.
I never said that.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. See y'all next week.
Favorite. Thank you.
It's the 15%